There's a powerful truth that most people overlook. The biggest transformations in life rarely come from massive actions. They come from the small steps you choose to take every single day. Those steps may feel insignificant, too simple, too slow to matter, but that's the illusion. The reality is that small steps, repeated with intention, create momentum, and momentum creates breakthroughs. When you take a small step, you're not just moving forward, you're building a pattern. You're telling your brain, this is who I am now, I take action. You're training yourself to follow through. And that follow through is far more valuable than waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect burst of motivation. Perfection delays progress. Action creates it. Small steps eliminate overwhelm. When a goal feels too big, too far, too heavy, most people freeze. They procrastinate, they doubt themselves, they quit before they even begin. But when you break your goal into small, doable actions, you remove the fear. You remove the pressure. You make progress feel achievable. And that feeling is everything. Because once you start, even with the smallest step, you create movement. And movement is where change begins. Every small step compounds. Just like drops of water fill a bucket, your repeated actions accumulate quietly, steadily, consistently. You may not see the results right away, but they're happening. You're strengthening your habits. You're sharpening your discipline. You're building the foundation for something bigger than you can currently imagine. Growth is rarely visible in the beginning, but if you stay committed to the process, one day the results will be undeniable. Small steps also build confidence. Every time you complete one small task, you prove to yourself that you can do it. You build trust with yourself. You start to believe in your ability to change, to grow, to move forward. That self-belief becomes fuel. It energizes you. It makes the next step easier. And then the next. And suddenly, what once felt impossible now feels within reach. The journey doesn't require giant leaps. It requires consistency. It requires patience. It requires a willingness to show up, even when progress feels slow. Some days your step will be big. Some days it will be small. Some days it will simply be the step of not giving up, but all of it counts. Each step moves you forward. Each step shapes your path. Each step builds your future. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, moments when you question whether these small steps are making a difference, moments when you feel stuck or tired or discouraged. But that's where the real transformation happens, when you keep going anyway, when you trust the process, even when the results aren't visible. When you remind yourself that every big achievement in history started with one small decision to move. So take the step, whatever it is. Make the call, read the page, do the workout, learn the skill, practice the habit. Don't wait for motivation to arrive. Create your own momentum by acting now. The step may feel small, but its impact will not be, because small steps taken consistently create massive results. Over time, they reshape your habits, your mindset, your confidence, and your entire life. And when you look back months or years from now, you'll realize that the big results didn't come from one moment. They came from countless little moments where you chose progress over excuses. Start small. Stay consistent and watch your life transform in ways you never thought possible. Small, consistent actions create momentum. It's one of the most powerful truths about growth, achievement, and transformation. When you look at people who reach incredible heights in any area of life, it's easy to assume they made massive leaps or had extraordinary bursts of motivation. But the reality is far simpler and far more attainable for anyone willing to commit. They took small steps every day, even when those steps seemed too small to matter. And each step, each repetition, each decision to show up created a momentum that eventually became unstoppable. Momentum doesn't come from doing something huge once. It comes from doing something small repeatedly. Think about how a wheel begins to turn. The first push is the hardest because the wheel is at rest. It takes energy and effort to get it moving even an inch. But once it starts rolling, something incredible happens. The next push becomes easier. And the next. Over time, the wheel begins to move faster, smoother, with less resistance. Your actions work the same way. The first small step requires willpower, discipline, and commitment. But once you take that step and repeat it, you start to build a rhythm. You start to feel progress. And that feeling becomes fuel. The beauty of small, consistent actions is that they eliminate the fear of starting. When a goal feels too big, your mind tries to protect you by convincing you it's impossible. It creates overwhelm, hesitation, and doubt. But when you break the goal into something small, something manageable, the fear begins to disappear. You stop thinking about the mountain and start focusing on the single step in front of you. And once you take that step, something shifts inside you. You feel a spark of progress. You feel movement. And that small movement encourages your next step. Momentum also comes from repetition. When you repeat an action daily, even one that seems tiny, you reinforce a message to yourself, I am moving forward. You create internal proof that you are committed. That proof is essential because your brain responds to evidence, not promises. When you act consistently, even in small ways, you show yourself that you can be trusted to follow through. You build credibility with yourself, and that internal trust becomes the foundation of a strong mindset. Small actions also reduce the emotional pressure that comes with big goals. You don't need to conquer everything at once. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to see instant results. You only need to take the next small step. That removes the weight of expectation and replaces it with a sense of progress. And when progress feels achievable, momentum becomes inevitable. Another thing people often overlook is the compounding effect of small actions. A small action done once may feel insignificant, but repeated consistently becomes powerful. 5 minutes of reading a day turns into entire books over time. 10 minutes of practicing a skill becomes hours of mastery. A short daily workout becomes strength, endurance, and health. 1 page written every day becomes a manuscript. 1 small investment becomes long-term gains. The compounding effect is quiet, subtle, and often unnoticed until it suddenly becomes visible. Momentum is not just physical, it's emotional and mental. When you act consistently, your confidence grows. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes action, someone who doesn't wait for motivation, but creates it. Confidence is built through action, not thought. And the more you act, the more you trust your ability to continue. That confidence becomes momentum itself, pushing you forward even on days when you feel tired or unmotivated. People often underestimate the power of small steps because they don't see immediate results. But small steps are like drops of water filling a bucket. You don't notice much at first, but with time, the bucket overflows. Momentum works the same way. Each action adds to the progress already made, and eventually you reach a point where the momentum carries you forward effortlessly. What once felt hard becomes natural. What once felt slow becomes fast. What once felt overwhelming becomes simple repetition. Small steps also prevent burnout. When you take massive action all at once, you might see quick results, but you also risk exhausting your energy and losing consistency. Small actions, however, are sustainable. They allow you to grow without overwhelming yourself. They allow you to stay committed without feeling drained. Sustainability is the secret to long-term success. Momentum isn't built by intensity, it's built by consistency. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to choose one small action and repeat it, and then another, and another. Each action becomes a brick, and those bricks build the foundation of your future. Eventually, the momentum becomes so strong that stopping feels harder than continuing. Every small step matters. Every small choice matters. Every moment of progress matters. Even when it feels like nothing is changing, something is. You are changing. Your habits are changing. Your mindset is changing. And once momentum begins to build, the results that once felt impossible will begin to unfold in ways you never expected. Small, consistent actions don't just create momentum, they create transformation. And that transformation begins with one simple step taken today. Breaking big goals into small steps removes overwhelm. When a goal feels massive, distant, or complicated, your mind automatically reacts with resistance. It feels too big to tackle, too heavy to carry, too unclear to begin. That overwhelming feeling can freeze you in place. It convinces you to avoid the work, procrastinate, doubt yourself, or wait for the right moment that never comes. But when you break that big goal into small, simple, achievable steps, everything changes. Suddenly, the impossible starts to feel possible. The mountain shrinks into a series of small climbs you can handle one at a time. Overwhelm happens when your mind tries to imagine the entire journey at once. It tries to process every challenge, every requirement, every effort that will ever be needed all in a single moment. That kind of thinking is not only unrealistic, it's paralyzing. Human beings weren't designed to climb an entire staircase in one jump. We were designed to take one step at a time. When you shift your focus from the whole staircase to the single step right in front of you, you remove the mental weight that keeps you stuck. Breaking big goals into small steps creates clarity. When you know exactly what to do next, the fear of the unknown disappears. You don't have to figure out everything, you just need to know the next small action. That clarity simplifies your path. Instead of thinking, how am I going to achieve this huge thing? You begin thinking, what's the one small thing I can do today? And that question is empowering. It puts you back in control. It puts progress within reach. These small steps also protect you from the perfectionism that often kills momentum. When a task feels big, you want to do it perfectly, but perfection delays action. It keeps you planning instead of doing, imagining instead of moving. When you shrink the task into something small, there's no room for perfection, only for progress. Small steps give you permission to start messy, start imperfect, start slow. And starting, no matter how imperfect, is the most important part of any journey. Another powerful thing about breaking goals into smaller steps is that it builds confidence. Every time you complete a small task, you experience a win. You check something off, you feel progress. That feeling of accomplishment creates psychological momentum. It tells your brain, I can do this. And when your brain believes you can do it, you're far more likely to keep going. Confidence doesn't come from imagining success. It comes from experiencing small victories along the way. Small steps also make room for flexibility. When you try to force yourself to handle a giant task all at once, any obstacle feels like failure. But when you work in small steps, obstacles become manageable. If one step doesn't work, you simply adjust it. If one plan fails, you create another small plan. Flexibility becomes easier when you're not carrying the pressure of completing a big goal in one massive attempt. Breaking goals into small steps also transforms your relationship with time. People often give up because they believe they don't have enough time to accomplish something big. But small steps don't demand large blocks of time. They fit into your day. They fit into your life. You can make progress even when you're busy, even when you're tired, even when your schedule is full. 5 minutes of action is infinitely more valuable than 0 minutes of waiting for the perfect moment. The truth is, overwhelm doesn't come from the size of the goal. It comes from the size of the step you're trying to take all at once. When the step is too big, the mind shuts down. But when the step is just small enough, the mind says, I can do that. And that willingness opens the door to real progress. Breaking big goals into small steps also reveals patterns. It helps you understand what actions actually move you forward and what actions don't. You start seeing which habits support your progress and which ones slow you down. This awareness helps you refine your process without losing momentum. Most importantly, small steps create consistency, and consistency is what ultimately brings results. Anyone can work hard for a day or a week or in short bursts of inspiration, but big results come from repeated actions taken over time. Small steps make repetition easy. They remove the emotional resistance that big actions carry. They turn effort into habit, and once something becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are, not just something you're trying to achieve. You don't have to worry about the overall journey when you trust the next step. Success isn't built in one massive effort. It's built in countless small moments where you choose movement over hesitation. When you break your goals down, you stop thinking about how far you have to go and start focusing on how far you've already come. That shift in perspective fuels you. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you unstoppable. The power of small steps is this. They make the impossible feel achievable. They turn overwhelm into confidence. They turn hesitation into action. And they turn big dreams into lived reality. Every great achievement started with one simple step, taken by someone who was willing to begin even when the journey felt huge. Break it down. Make it small. Take the step and watch the path rise to meet you. Small steps build confidence because every small action you take becomes proof to yourself that you can follow through. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you create through repeated experiences of showing up, taking action, and seeing even the smallest results. Every tiny step becomes a message to your mind that you are capable, that you are committed, and that you are moving forward, even if the progress feels slow. Growth doesn't require giant leaps. What truly strengthens belief in yourself is the daily act of doing something you said you would do. When you take small steps, you give yourself the opportunity to win. And those small wins matter more than most people realize. A small win might look insignificant on its own. Writing one paragraph, doing 5 push-ups, saving a small amount of money, spending just 10 minutes learning a skill, but each win stacks on top of the last one. Before long, you're not just taking steps. You're building a foundation, and confidence thrives on foundations. Why do small steps work so powerfully? Because they remove the fear of failure. When the step is small, the risk is small. Your mind doesn't panic. It doesn't see danger. It doesn't feel pressure. You're not trying to overhaul your entire life in one moment. You're simply doing one manageable thing. And because it feels manageable, you take action. Once you take action, even if the step is tiny, you feel progress. And progress fuels confidence like nothing else. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from repetition. It comes from proving to yourself over and over that you can take action no matter how you feel. Big goals often create unrealistic expectations. They make you believe you need to be exceptional, unstoppable, or highly motivated to move forward. But small steps strip away the drama. They remind you that you don't need to be extraordinary, you just need to move. And when you move, you build momentum. When you build momentum, you start believing in your own ability to grow. Another reason small steps build confidence is because they create clarity. When a goal feels overwhelming, you don't know where to start. That confusion drains your confidence. It makes you feel incompetent or unprepared. But when you break the goal down, you know exactly what to do next. And when the next step is clear, you feel capable. Confidence increases when you know the path, even if you're only seeing one step at a time. Small steps also create emotional safety. Big actions require large amounts of mental energy, courage, and focus. They feel heavy. But small steps feel safe. They don't trigger self-doubt or fear the same way big actions do. When you complete small steps consistently, you build emotional resilience. You start trusting yourself. You start feeling grounded instead of overwhelmed. And that emotional stability strengthens your confidence because you no longer feel like your progress depends on motivation or perfect conditions. Every small step is also a form of self-respect. When you take even a tiny action, you're telling yourself, my goals matter, my growth matters, I matter. That message builds inner strength. It creates a sense of identity, an identity rooted in discipline, responsibility, and intentional progress. Confidence is closely tied to identity. When your identity shifts from, I hope I can, to I always show up, confidence becomes something natural, something automatic. Small steps also help you develop skills gradually. Each small action teaches you something, how to focus better, how to stay consistent, how to overcome resistance. These skills add up. They sharpen your mind, they strengthen your discipline. And as your abilities grow, so does your confidence. You no longer feel like success is for other people. You begin to see that success is simply a result of repeating small actions long enough. One of the most powerful aspects of small steps is the compound effect they create. Each tiny action builds on the last, multiplying your confidence over time. It's like adding drops of water into a bucket. At first, it seems like nothing is happening. But if you keep adding drops, the bucket will eventually overflow. Confidence works the same way. Small steps may look insignificant in the moment, but their impact multiplies. Days become weeks, weeks become months. And suddenly you look back and realize how far you've come. That realization transforms your belief in what you're capable of. Small steps also eliminate the guilt that comes from inaction. When people set massive goals and don't take action, they feel disappointed in themselves. That disappointment damages confidence. It makes people believe they're undisciplined or incapable. But when you take small steps, you never fall into that cycle. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions or perfect energy. You can always take a small step. And that consistency keeps your confidence intact. Ultimately, small steps build confidence because they keep you in motion. And motion is where courage grows. It's where self-belief strengthens. It's where transformation starts. You don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to move fast. You don't need to take massive risks. You just need to move one small step at a time. With every small action you take, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of creating change, capable of being disciplined, and capable of achieving the goals that once felt far away. Small steps might seem humble, but they create powerful, lasting confidence. And once you trust yourself, nothing is out of reach. Real transformation comes from patience and persistence because meaningful change is not something that happens instantly. It is something that grows layer by layer through steady effort and unwavering commitment. We live in a world that celebrates speed, quick results, and overnight success, but real growth doesn't follow that timeline. True transformation unfolds quietly, gradually, and often invisibly at first. It requires the willingness to stay the course even when progress feels slow, even when results are not obvious, and even when the journey challenges you more deeply than you expected. Patience is the foundation of transformation because growth has its own rhythm. You cannot rush the development of strength, discipline, mastery, or purpose. Just like a seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout the same day, your goals and your growth also need time to take root. There are seasons where nothing seems to be happening on the surface, but beneath that surface, everything is shifting, developing, preparing. Impatient people quit during these silent seasons. They misunderstand delay as failure. But those who practice patience understand that slow progress is still progress, and that time is not the enemy. It is a partner in the process. Patience isn't passive waiting, it's active trust. It's the ability to keep showing up, to keep applying effort, to keep believing in the work you're doing, even when you have no immediate evidence that it's paying off. It's faith in the process. It's discipline in the face of uncertainty. It's refusing to let frustration or comparison pull you off your path. Patience protects your mindset. It keeps your energy grounded. It stops you from burning out, and it reminds you that everything meaningful takes time to build. But patience alone isn't enough. Persistence is what turns time into transformation. Persistence is the gritty, determined willingness to keep moving even when the journey gets hard. It's the refusal to let setbacks define you. It's the strength to try again after you stumble, the courage to keep going when motivation fades, and the commitment to rise every single time life pushes you down. Persistence is the muscle of growth. Every time you persist through a challenge, you strengthen that muscle. Real transformation demands persistence because the path to your goals will not always be smooth. There will be moments of doubt, moments of exhaustion, moments where the results you expected don't appear. There will be distractions, temptations, and obstacles that try to pull you away from your mission. Anyone can stay committed when things are easy, but persistence is proven when things are difficult. It's in those moments, the moments where most people quit, that persistence becomes your advantage. Those who persist push through the resistance that stops others. And on the other side of that resistance is where breakthroughs happen. When patience and persistence work together, transformation becomes inevitable. Patience helps you stay calm, steady, and focused on the long game. Persistence keeps you taking action step after step, even when the journey tests you. Together, they create a powerful momentum that builds strength, builds character, and builds results. Transformation also requires an acceptance that growth isn't linear. There will be days of great progress and days where you feel like you're standing still. There will be moments of clarity and moments of confusion. There will be wins and there will be setbacks. But persistence teaches you to keep going regardless of the emotional highs and lows. It keeps you anchored to your purpose, not your temporary feelings. Patience teaches you something just as important. Progress is meaningful even when it's invisible. Often the biggest internal changes, the shifts in mindset, the strengthening of discipline, the building of resilience, happen long before external results show up. You may feel like nothing is happening, but inside, you're becoming stronger, smarter, more focused, and more capable. When the results finally appear, people will call it sudden, but nothing about it was sudden. It was built quietly through patience and persistence long before anyone else noticed. Real transformation isn't about intensity. It's about longevity. Anyone can work hard for a week. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment. Anyone can make a big effort once in a while. But transformation comes from the person who keeps showing up, keeps building, keeps grinding, and keeps believing over and over again. It's the long-term commitment that creates the long-term result. Patience gives you perspective. Persistence gives you power. Patience keeps your mind steady. Persistence keeps your body in motion. Patience helps you grow through the process instead of rushing to the outcome. Persistence helps you handle challenges instead of escaping from them. Together, they create a combination strong enough to change your life. The truth is, real transformation is not a single event. It's the result of countless moments where you chose progress over comfort, effort over excuses, and direction over distraction. It's built through habits, through discipline, through resilience, and through the quiet moments when you decide to keep going even though you're tired, frustrated, or unsure. Transformation is a commitment, not a convenience. And when you embrace patience and persistence, you unlock a level of power and potential that few people ever tap into. You become unstoppable, not because everything becomes easy, but because you refuse to quit when it's hard. And that is what creates real, lasting change.